Yo, what's up guys? So we're here to check out Magical Muskets in action in 2019 with, of course, that new Link monster. They're much better, and I haven't got a chance to go ahead and show off some gameplay and how good this deck can be against even some of the strongest, most competitive decks. They're actually really good at dealing with established boards compared to a lot of different decks. That is because there's so many effects that just stop monster effects, and a lot of their effects are really reliant on the spell and trap just being there in the game. But anyways, let's go ahead and check out a bunch of different duels against a lot of the meta, as well as against just a bunch of different matchups here. So we're going to go ahead and see just a Kaiju, so let's get rid of like one card that could potentially stop stuff. Then we're going to go ahead and see Caspar here, and then we also have Dancing Noise, which is going to basically proc the effect of Caspar, but we're really here to go ahead and start banishing some of his cards. So we're going to go ahead and continue on, and we're going to do most of these fast forwarded just because there's a lot of replays to go ahead and show, and I'm going to go ahead and click show both of the hands here, even though he's got no hands, he's got a face down Alert of Darkness. But what really makes this deck so much better in the TCG right now is Musketeer Max. Now the OCG has not been really playing anything other than, for the most part, pretty much what we've been seeing, which is just Dragon Link over and over again. And then now we're going to see one of the cheesy things that you're going to be doing in this deck quite often is actually utilizing Utopia's effect. The magical muskets are there to kind of maybe bait out some of the other cards, but for the most part, most decks aren't playing much back row, and if they do have any, they're going to stop your cards from going off in the first place in order to, of course, protect their cards. But like I said, we have a bunch of different duels. So that one was up against Orcus, which I would still consider very high tier in the meta. And next up, it's going to be against the Guard Dragons, which is, I would say, definitely in most players' eyes the best deck as of right now, just because the deck is so consistent at making these boards from one that are just like, dude, I can't even play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's where a lot of the frustration comes in with this format if you don't happen to have Nibiru, because this deck, obviously, it can play totally fine without special summoning a bunch of times per turn. Obviously, if you do the Ties of the Brethren build, which I thought it was a pretty cool idea, you could still completely do decent things without going off. But what it really comes down to is Max. Okay, so this was a GG real fast because it was the Utopia once again after he, of course, cleared the board. Well, essentially, he already activated this effect. He obviously gave him Gamma Seal. But basically, Musketeer Max against Guard Dragons, because a lot of times they will happen to have this card in the back row. This card will just be face up. But if you're playing against a lot of decks, they'll just have like a face up field spell. And then, like I said, with the Guard Dragons, this gets left there. I guess this is technically here as well. But they will be leaving stuff. And you could just really, or if you're playing against Dinos, that's another card that would be there. But again, it just lets you get a bunch of monsters for free. Or you can add spells and traps that are magical musket ones up to the number of monsters your opponent controls. So that's actually pretty good too. So there's a lot of different things that you can play up against. If you're playing it up against a deck that has a bunch of back row, well then go ahead and special summon a bunch of monsters. If they've got a bunch of monsters, go ahead and search a bunch of spells and traps. It's supposed to really equalize the playing field, but when your opponent utilizes so many cards and their resources just to make one play. Okay, this one, I'm not even sure what this is, but I see Mari, I see Battle Fader and Necroface, and I already think it's some probably cheesy deck. What the heck is this? Witcher Strike. Yo, dude, this card is really good, but it's so near impossible to get the activation. And then on top of that, it's not even a not quick play. It's not even a spell speed 3, so he's going to go ahead and use the Fiendish Deal. He's going to go ahead and be able to get that effect where magical musket monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. So you're basically safe on, what the heck is this? What? Giraffe? Gradle. Okay, I don't even know what that one was, but we're just trying to show off different things that you can do. A lot of times it is going to be the similar win condition of Utopia most of the times, because these are going to be duels where you can definitely throw it out. Now we see Nibiru turn 1 over here, which we all know you activate Nibiru, you usually can win, but there's a cheeky play over here that you can see. But there is one thing that you have to keep in mind though. Lost World does make it so, where is it? You can't target, gosh, once it finally lets me, okay. I understand Danger Mothman coming out. But while your opponent controls the token, they can't target monsters on the field with card effects except for the token. So he's going to go ahead and actually get rid of the token. But he's going to go ahead and get some free extra advantage here. But really what it comes down to is he's going to be able to utilize those for the board load. And he's going to go ahead and take that huge Nibiru token. And so now he's going to be able to deal a bunch of damage, which is a pretty cool idea that you can do with this deck. And again, this is a pretty important thing, especially if you Nibiru and give your opponent a token with like thousands and thousands of attack, right? He's also got that Ragna Zero here, that card's out, and that's going to be able to stop anything that changes its attack. Then he's going to have Cross Dominator. And like the advantage that you get for free with this deck is insane. So he's going to go ahead and utilize that effective Phoenix. And with the double or nothing effect, he doesn't really need it. So unfortunately, there is one magical Musketeer monster that does have some draw power, but it has to be getting rid of a magical Musket card. You can't just discard one card to get that effect. Otherwise, this deck would be so much better. Just because there are sometimes cards that you just can't utilize in the deck. For example, like I feel like Crooked Crown as well as the Needle, those are cards where you could argue that they aren't very good sometimes, but they do have their uses, right? With Fiendish Deal, that protects your cards, and then you have Crooked Crown, which can give you that additional summon. But a lot of times people will drop those in case you guys did want to build it. And I will give you guys a brief little deck profile in a moment here in case you guys do want to, of course, build this deck yourself. And I would say it's relatively budget friendly. Like there's several cards in here that can be, it's basically Starfire as well as Castfire, but for the most part, other than those cards, I know this build is running impermanence, but impermanence can be used in anything. But, oh, by the way, if you guys are wondering if these were ranked, most of these that were sent in, they are different ratings, so I'm guessing he was grinding ranked. In fact, he was 850, I think, in the first play, which should be towards the top of the ladder here in Dueling Book. But I was looking at also some of the opponents here. This guy's 98. Interesting to see a almost 800 ranked player can play against someone that's negative in the win rate here. But that could be just due to there's not that many people playing ranked. So if you guys want to grind, sometimes it can happen. Because if you were to lose against this guy, you would lose so many points. And if you were to win, you don't gain that many points against a lower rated player. But that's just how it works. But Celestial Spheres out. And we see that double or nothing. And he's just gonna, or not double summon, and he's just gonna go ahead and rage quit over there. Next one up over here. Like I said, some of these are more against random stuff. There's one that I really wanted to show off that was up against a. Let's go to okay, this deck, I was talking about this deck a while ago. The Phantasmal Spiral deck. Like, it's actually a decent deck, surprisingly, with all those free extra damage tokens. So he's gonna go ahead, tribute it, and oh, does he have to like? Oh, you know what? I think it's like if of all monsters you control, normal. So he's gonna go ahead and give him a monster, so it's not a normal monster, and then he's gonna go ahead, double summon, get all the advantages and effects, and he's also got Chalice to negate an effect if there would be one, and then proc their effect. So Chalice is actually really strong in this deck as well as double summon, just because it gives you some extra advantage. He's gonna go ahead and draw some extra cards just to see if he would have gotten anything. But giving him that Kaiju was really smart because it made it so he could not pull off that combo. Same thing with against like a deck like Sky Striker. Sometimes they have to like control certain things. Looks like this one is up against the True Draco, which is more of a control deck. We've seen a lot more of like the, well, in the very beginning it was the two, I would say, most people would say Orcus and the Dragon Link deck, or Dragons, are the most meta, and they're probably the most explosive decks turn one. And this is up against something that's a little bit slower over here. He's got Demise, but he's going to go ahead and maybe get it next turn, and nope, not getting it next turn, so he's going to go ahead and get that effect, and he's going to go ahead and attack, and he says, can't. Utopia Prevalent was end of damage, destroyed. His effect happened on damage or graveyard, just wait for a judge. Okay, I guess, and he says, I'm doing things, not your 9 cards. I don't really know what happened here, but yo, he got wrecked by the Utopia, and I actually picked up one of those not too long ago. The Utopia combo, I just think it was just a nice little cheesy thing that you can throw out, and it does win a surprising amount of duels. This looks like some type of banish deck. I'm actually not sure what this is exactly, but once again, the Fiendish Deal. It's going to make his monsters immune to stuff. But sometimes, honestly, like, the card doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be a magical musket. I'm going to what I wanted to mention before. You have the dock over here where you can go ahead and just add one. But there's another card that has a draw power that I did want to mention because this is a thing that I did see quite frequently when people were playing this deck. I just wanted to mention it. Make sure if you're playing up against, oh, this guy's 900. Okay, so this is going to be more of a meta duel here. Looks like it's going to be a Burning Abyss duel. This is the one I believe with Gizmek. Okay, with a higher lance. Yeah. Okay, so this is just basically a monster mash deck, which is quite good. And I'm actually in the process of, dude, I'm in the process of building so many decks right now in real life. But there's like 2 people at my locals that play Mystic Mine, and they just like tech it. One of them plays like Sky Strikers. One of them just wants to play Burn just to make everyone salty. Like that's literally his goal. But usually he ain't too hard to beat. No disrespect, but sometimes, dude, you play like Sekka's Light, dude, you just straight up lose. Like this deck, if you actually Sekka's Light and they got monsters, dude, you can sit there all day and still not be able to do any damage, and it's just frustrating, right? So he's going to go ahead and attack right over the edge jump, and he's going to go right into the cross on there, and he's going to go ahead and attack, and he's going to go ahead and lose out on Max. Max doesn't get any effect. I guess he could have lowered it, but he's going to use that effect of Caspar. Well, I guess he could have used it right there. I mean, I guess he didn't know what he's going to top deck into. So he could have protected Max if he wanted to, but like this card going away doesn't matter, and like he's just going to go ahead and make Utopia again, dude. Like Utopia is so strong. I feel like that's probably the star of the magical muskets. It's quite common to see it pull it off, and it's not a bad option if you can go for it. Why not go for game? In fact, when I was playing this deck, I was main decking Ties of the Brethren, but for the most part, if you do technically go into your Max and your special summoning, like, obviously you summon the first monster and then Max gets special, then you special summon like 3-4 monsters, and then you might activate the effect of like Starfire or one of the other ones, and you're going to get out another magical musket. Your opponent maybe can drop Nibiru on you, but for the most part, I think this deck can totally play fine around a Nibiru. There was duels where the opponent used every single card in his hand, and at that point, well, you don't really worry about Nibiru when they have 0 cards. And then once again, we see the Utopia coming out. Dude, that's so dirty. They can attack, 10k attack, 0 attack. That's game, dude. That's pretty dirty. Alright, so next and final duel over here, and then I'll also give you guys a deck profile in case some of you guys didn't want to run this deck yourself. Because I think that it is, like I said, a relatively budget-friendly deck. It's something new to play because while I still have been playing Orcus at the moment, sometimes you just get fatigued of playing the same deck over and over again, right? And I haven't played this deck in a while, so I might mess around with this deck. But I think a lot of times with this deck, it's just making this, dude. Like, it makes me want to just play this. It's really good. But anyways, shoutouts to Jack Skells for this build, because this was his build. Let's go ahead and hop right into the deck profile over here. Anyways, there's not really anything that's like super techy. There was a build that you did see where he did technically have the Nibiru in the main deck, but when he did send me in he sent me a screenshot, and that's why I actually would prefer to mouse over the card, so you guys can go ahead and copy it this way. So like I said, I would say it's a budget-friendly deck, minus this card. But again, this is not specifically conditional to the deck. Chalice basically gets the job done. I guess even Book of Moon would almost kind of get the job done. I mean, yeah, it doesn't leave it in attack position, which you actually do want, because if you want to, of course, Utopia. But sometimes, if they have 2 monsters, just go ahead, Book of Moon one of the other ones, and then you'll be good to go. And Impermanence almost as Book of Moon obviously is not as good as this card, because this card can be activated immediately. But think about it this way: you're not getting the effect sometimes of your magical Musketeers if you're activating this during your opponent's turn when it's turn 0. But anyways, Armors with deck plus. So 5 copies of the Kaijus. I'm not sure if there's any specific reason why you'd play any of the other Kaijus over the other ones, because you're most likely just going to do 0 attack. But if you do have that variety, sometimes you give your opponent the weaker one, you get the stronger one. We got 2 copies. Oh, by the way, make sure you guys are reading the name, not in the top of the card picture, but right here, in case you do want to actually build them, because the names have been changed here in the TCG, and we're doing this in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. Anyways, we got 2 copies of the Musketeer Calamity, and then we have 3 copies of the Starfire. This is one of the expensive cards, and then as well as Caspar. But other than that, the deck's really cheap. Then we have 2 copies of Kid Brave, 2 copies of the Doc, 3 copies of Caspar, 3 copies of Double Summon. Then we got Upstart, 3 copies of Chalice, 3 copies of the Cross Dominator, and then or Cross Domination as it's called in the TCG. Then Double or Nothing, which, dude, this card just wins games, man. And then we have 3 copies of Impermanence, 3 copies of the Desperado, 1 copy of Dancing Needle, and then Crooked Crown, And there was also the other, hold on, very tight, Magical Musket. There was one other card, Dancing Needle. Okay, we got Dancing Needle. There's the, what's it change? Fiendish Deal, is that the one that we, okay. So there was one card, yeah, there was a few different builds that he did show off, but I'm not sure if this one was, I know Nibiru was not in the main one, but I might have done goofed on like one copy of a card. You can let me know which one it was. But there was like technically several different builds, so I'm just going off of what was sent in. But there was one build that had Nibiru. But honestly, with Fiendish Deal, the Dancing Needle, or the Crooked Crown, any of these honestly could be dropped depending on what you want to play. And you can technically recycle some of them anyways, with, of course, the effect of the Wild. It just resets like a mini Pot of Avarice here. And then for the extra deck, so yeah, keep in mind, there's like one card that was dropped in a lot of the builds because it was 40, but cards can be swapped in and out depending on what you want to with these three. So we got the Utopia lineup over here, then we have the number 41, we have the Borload, and then we've got Saryuja, Phoenix, Cerberus, 3 copies of Hyperstar. This just makes it so you're able to add a light monster, which is 99% of the time going to, of course, be your Caspar. And then we have the Repro, and then 3 copies of Max here. I did want to mention a card, in case any of you guys do want to build this deck. One excellent card that you can run if you want to is Ties. I honestly thought this was like one of the best cards in the deck. I mean, this card, you literally activate it, and I feel like you just win the game. Another card that people were playing for a while in this deck. This is basically before the link, but I still think Honest is not that bad of a card. I mean, it's just like these cards do nothing on their own, so your opponent isn't going to try to like destroy this card or send it to the graveyard with an effect. They just usually, the only thing that matters is these, because these will basically protect your card in the first place. But if they just go, okay, battle, I'm going to go ahead and attack, because usually they'll expect these cards that they need to basically bait them out, and you hit them up with the Honest, and they're just like, oh dude, I didn't expect that, and then they just lose. I don't know, I kind of like Honest. It's cheesy, but for the most part, I would say, I mean, Ties of the Brethren technically doesn't let you pull off the Utopia, but if you're going turn 1, obviously you're not going to Utopia. I just still think this is a pretty good card. But anyways, that's it for the deck profile, and Magical Muskets, man, not bad at all in 2019. The deck has gotten so much better now in the game. Again, with Nibiru, I personally have been main decking 3 copies of Nibiru in every deck, but I think that the deck is just so much better in 2019. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel here, hit the subscribe button and turn that bell so you don't miss out on new Yu-Gi-Oh builds. When, of course, things get better, we'll of course, be updating them. And if you guys want to send me any more replays, feel free to go ahead and do so, azneyesreplays@gmail.com. Would love to see anything that we haven't covered in the channel recently. And I did technically want to make a video on Magical Muskets, but I never got around to it. So thanks for sending this in. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and I'm signing out. Peace.